Hello and welcome to your Total Beginner series. This is Yoga in Your Living Room and my name is Brenton. Today's practice is a standing practice. There's no getting up and down from the floor. So all you need to do is set up a mat or just find a space to move. Consider maybe taking your shoes and socks off so you have more tactile sensation of the feet. And that's actually where we'll get started today. So when you come up to your mat, we're gonna see if we can rock up and back on the feet. And if you feel like this is kind of your first sense for balance up here, so if you're feeling a little topsy-turvy, consider having some furniture like the back of a chair or a countertop nearby where you can easily hold on to it if and when you need to during standing sequences. So now let's just work with the coming up onto the tippy toes. These are called heel bops, or I call them heel bops. And we just want to get right up over the big toe. So when you come up and down, notice if you're avoiding the big toe and get right up over that big toe. And you really want to get your calves working to squeeze you up. Okay, and then after this next one, we'll take 1 foot forward, 1 foot back, the top of that foot down, so you just get a little stretch to the top of the foot, see how that feels. Then maybe with the hands on the hips here, notice if you're sassing your hips to either side. What you'll do is you'll put your hands around the pelvis and start to feel for your frontal hip bones. Those are the pointy knobs here. These will be very informative to you. You want these knobby bones to be parallel with each other. So they're not, when they're sassing, they're not. And you want them, when you lay your hands on them, for the hands to go straight up and down. So you don't want them to be like this, where the hands would be like this, but nor do you really want them to be like this, where the hands would be like this. And now just move around on that foot back there. Rolling around the ankle and exposing the ankle to all these different ranges of motion. How do they all feel? How are they all accessible or not accessible to you? And then taking that foot down, stretching the other foot back, feeling around for those frontal hip bones, giving about 30 seconds on this side. And we never want to stretch into pain or anything like that. So if you ever feel pain, back out until you don't. And again, moving around at that ankle. Be conservative with your movements, I would say. That would be my big suggestion. Because that'll help you progress over time and it'll help you stay in control of what you're doing. Okay, so stepping both feet together up here, let's take the hands and keep working with the pelvis. So a little soft bend into the knees here. As we start to hinge the pelvis forward, sticking the butt out, and then do the opposite, scoop the tailbone forward, pull the belly back. And let's go back and forth like that, where you're just seeing how much movement is available to you in that pelvis. And even notice here, if one of those spots feels very familiar, like, oh, I tend to hang out here all day, that's really good information to have. Now, we want to see if we can set the pelvis in neutral. And I have a whole class on neutral, so I recommend going there after you practice this. But this is where, again, those frontal hip bones are probably going to be mostly up and down. Our bones are all slightly different, so it may be the case that yours is a little bit different than mine. And then the low back has its natural curve, which is just the babiest of back bends. My natural curve is very slight. You can barely see it. And that is where I feel an efficient use of energy. So now I'm going to see if I can keep this position of the pelvis and the low back. I'm going to sandwich my hands here so I can feel what's going on. And the question is whether I can straighten my legs any degree while keeping that. And I'm straightening at the ankle, the knee, and the hip right here. Now, slide the hands up to the rib cage and your ribs, but relax your shoulders. And keep your muscles active in your lower body to hold your pelvis as you now tip the rib cage up and back. And it's just a little bit of movement, but you're looking for the same information that you were looking for when you were moving your pelvis. And see how accessible it is to you to pull your rib cage up and back over the pelvis so that you are super long from your ribs down the front, the ribs down the side, and the ribs down the back. You might feel like, wow, I'm using a lot of muscles here. Welcome to neutral, baby. Use it. Take the breath way down into the belly, but then soften any excess tension. Now, the last piece of this puzzle is take the hands behind the head and teach the head. It's probably forward, like mine is. So we got to teach the head where its position is, and that is right up and back over the shoulders with the chin tucked in. And when I pull on the head up and back, I want to feel it pull on the spine like a chain link necklace, each piece connected to its neighbor. And breathe, but low into the belly, not high into the chest. And if you feel a stretch through your chest or a stretch through your armpits or on your neck or on your belly, welcome. Let's free the arms. Let them come down to the side there. Okay, from here, we're going to keep the same positioning in the spine. So this gets into proprioception, which is our ability to feel where we are in space. And what can help us with that sometimes is practicing in front of a mirror. So if you have a mirror, consider going there. And now I want to keep everything in the torso as I bend at the knees and the hips, and I come into a chair pose. And so in this chair pose, I want to feel like my low back is not doing a lot of movement. It's benefiting from the movement, but it's not doing a lot of it. Instead, I want to feel the butt and the hamstrings and the quads. And even here, taking the hands onto wherever they feel comfortable, I'm going to take them in front. And then standing all the way back up. So seeing if you can bend at the ankles, knees, and hips, come down to chair any amount, and then come all the way back up. So you got 3 joints in each leg that are moving, your ankle, knee, and hip. And don't let any of those joints avoid the movement. As you come down and up, let all of those joints participate evenly. I can feel how even the 2 different legs are doing 2 different things, like which joint moves first, second, third. Now, could I hold a chair and open the chest, but keep everything contained in the front body? So imagine your spine is still in that same alignment with the pelvis and the ribs and the head. They all have that same relationship that we just found. Now I'm going to move that relationship a little bit as I open the chest and I look up, but I still keep my belly button where it just was. And now I'm going to round in and close the arms in and chin in. And going out and in. And try to move the entire spine. You can even move the pelvis. And it's up to you to kind of figure out here what's going to feel appropriate and accessible. So don't let any one part of your body do too much work. As you feel ready from here, open up, press through your feet, stand all the way up, shake it out. From here, let's find again the pelvis. Use your hands to help you find the pelvis. Use your hands to help you find the ribs. Use your hands to help you find the head. And then don't let it be rigid. Keep the breath flowing. Things are working, but not overly so. And now let's step the right foot forward and take the left foot back to a high lunge. So it's a short-ish stance. It's not like you're splitting your pelvis apart. And if you need, again, something to hold on to, a chair or a countertop will be great. So with this back foot, it's going to get strong over time. It's going to get so strong that you can easily lift the heel up For today, do whatever feels appropriate. Get onto the big toe and the pinky toe mound of that back foot evenly. And now bend the back knee and scoop it forward so that you can get your pelvis more upright. It's going to want to do this, right? So getting the pelvis upright, get the ribs upright, get the head upright here, and breathe. And see if you can go a little bit up and down in the legs. And then as you feel ready, could you stand forward, bringing the back leg up? Releasing the hands here. When the arms are down, the center of gravity is lower, so it's easier to balance as you step the left foot back. We want the back heel up as best as we can manage that. Back knee swings forward, pelvis is evenly set. Those hip bones are evenly set between the armpits. So this measurement is the same on both sides of the body, unless you know something different about your neutral and your torso. Find your pelvis and your ribs and your head, and up and down a couple of times. Seeing if you can feel everything, pay attention to everything. And then from here, seeing if you can launch forward onto that front leg, release the arms. See how your feet feel, how your ankles feel. Let's do a couple more heel bops here, getting right up over those big toes. This will do wonders to strengthen your feet. And then from here, we'll turn to face the long edge of the mat, step to the center. With the hands on the pelvis, we want to keep our torso contained as we step the feet one at a time wide. We want the inner lining of the leg to pull away from each other so that you can ground your whole foot on the ground. Can you do that? Can you pick all of your 10 toes up off the ground and get it so that your ankle bones, this bone and this bone, are at the same height in space? You're not collapsed, like something like that. So getting yourself nice and lifted here. Hands onto the pelvis. We're gonna hinge forward. Here's the side view. We're gonna hinge forward so that the spine stays in that same relationship. And then from here, we're gonna bend into your left knee. So your butt goes back. You're kind of pinching that finger in the hip crease. And then up and over to the right side. And just going left to right here, trying to trace the hip bone to the armpit. And none of that changes. That way you know it's your legs that are doing the work. If you feel too much in your knee, you got to distribute more to the joints around it, to the ankle, and more likely to the hip. Okay, so these are side lunges. We do this in almost every class. You can be up like this in the torso. If you feel like you have more space, you can tent the hands on the floor or up onto some blocks. I definitely recommend having blocks at home because then the floor can be different heights for you. And then from here, you could do the same thing, and it just gets into different parts of the legs. So really opening up that inner lining of the legs. And then from here, we're gonna press down, roll back up to stand. We're gonna take the heels and the toes out if they weren't already, and sit down for horse. Again, we want the pelvis to be upright. The ribs are upright. And the knees feel well supported. They're tracking out over their second toe. So this inner lining of the leg is working to push the knees open. You're getting that right in this hip crease, external rotation. And hopefully you feel your butt on, supporting you. From here, we can press and bob up and down a little bit. And this will help the joints find a place where they like to settle. As we feel ready from here, we'll straighten the legs, keep the pelvis upright, doesn't tip forward. And then we'll turn all 10 toes forward, one at a time, step the feet together. Feel your legs here, you can shake them out a little bit. We're gonna do that one more time. So we're gonna step the feet nice and wide. Hands onto the pelvis. By now you know, like even if the legs are wide, you still want the pelvis set up, the ribs, the head, all of that good stuff. And then from here, we're gonna hinge forward a little bit with the knees bent, and we're gonna go side to side. And then again, if you can take your blocks, you can take your blocks. And then as you feel ready from here, we'll come all the way back on up to stand. And this time what we'll do is we'll turn the right toes to face the long edge of the mat, but we'll open the left toes up to face the front edge. This is where things go wonky in the pelvis. So soften both knees a little bit. Both knees are tracking over their second toes. So if your right knee is tracking in, turn the toes in line with it. Your knee gives you information about what your hip's able to do, and you want your foot to represent that. So we want to feel that when the knees bend, the pelvis usually kind of finds a position where it feels more secure. So see if you can find a sense of security in the pelvis where your butt muscles are on and your pelvis is upright and the frontal hip bones are parallel to each other. And then from here, what we'll do is we'll see if we can back out a little bit of the bend of the back leg while we bend into the front knee. And you can kind of feel here, like if you feel like you could bend your knee more in theory, walk your left foot a little bit farther away. We want the feet and ankles to feel well positioned here. So if they don't, again, figure out how to get the knees bent, because the knees bending will help reset the ankles and the hips. So getting a sense of that here, now come back up to your torso, maybe a weird position for the hips, but this is good. They need this new stimulus. See from here if you can widen the reach of the arms, keeping the chest open, the ribs in. You can even turn to face over the front hand into a classic warrior two, if that feels okay on your neck. Breathing way down into the belly. And as you feel ready, release the arms. Turn all 10 toes to face the side of the mat. You can move around here, kind of swaying out through the hips a little bit if that feels good to you. We're really here to learn how to use everything in the legs. So let's turn the right toes to the back of the mat now. Soften into both knees so that you can get a sense of the pelvis evenly set. The ankles and feet feeling pretty secure. And it's from there that you start to expand outward. Expand outward by bending more into the front knee, straightening a little bit into the back leg, but not at the expense of the ankle or the pelvis feeling janky. Okay, keep it not feeling janky. And then taking that sense of attention into the torso, feeling that nice lifted torso. The torso hasn't changed. And then we can take the arms and maybe even turn the chin. As we feel ready, release the arms, straighten out through that front leg, turn all 10 toes to face the side. One at a time, step the feet in together. See how you feel here? Shake it on out. So great job today, my friends. This is our total beginner standing practice. And the next class in the series is going to take us from standing down to the belly, back up to standing again. So I hope you're ready for that. I will also include some different modifications in case you feel like you're somewhere in between ready for that and sitting on the couch. So hope to see you back here soon, and have a wonderful day.